Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Saturday Morning Tech Show. And yes, it's early. It's 7 a.m. here in Honolulu. Of course, the clocks are going to change in a month or so, and then I'm going to be back to having to get up at 5 versus 6, which will suck, but it's life. I do want to just real quick, I know the audience, we've been kind of crazy on the schedule, and my regular audience on my Monday and Thursday show know that we are, or that I have been on, in airplanes a lot recently. Last week in Chicago, I spent a couple weeks in Dallas, where I was actually there an extra week, and then I'm heading out tonight to California, Portland. It's all over the place for the next week. So hopefully after this, we'll get back on a little bit more regular schedule. But I did want to apologize, but I want to give a warm welcome to our two guests. And I start on the bottom, and I would say, hey, Rob, how are you? Good morning. Welcome to the show. How you been?
Good. I've been fantastic. It's great to be back with the show, and it's good to see you back in Hawaii again.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you go ahead and introduce Alan? I know that you've known Alan for a while, and today's my first day getting to know Alan. So why don't you go ahead?
Well, yeah. I'd like to introduce Alan, and he is he's the CEO of The Mesh, and that's a podcast network out of North Carolina, and he's been trying to build this network for a few years now, and wanted to get him on the show to talk about it, and share his experiences of what's going on with his podcast network. He's got about 10 or 15 shows.
Yeah, that's about right. About a dozen right now. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here talking some tech stuff. So this will be fun. I appreciate the invitation. Being here as well.
Alan, have you and I met before at some event? You look awful familiar to me for some reason. I'm just trying.
I get that a lot, and of course I get confused with the country music singer a lot too. But trust me, I'm not going to be singing. I just share the name. But I don't know. Maybe so, Todd. Maybe so.
Yeah.
Podcasting is still kind of my second job besides what I do during the day. So I don't get to put quite as much time to as I'd like, but just love the opportunity to be with you guys talking about it a little bit here.
Well, I know, a lot of course, that's the way I started too. I started as, I had a regular full-time job, and actually it got to the point where I'm sure you felt that, or maybe even feel today, that it's your second job becomes almost your full-time, because you're putting more hours into it than your regular job. Yes. At least that's the way it was for me in the beginning. Of course, I think now it's full-time, but,
well, I'm over here on the East Coast, of course. I've already had a 3-hour head start on you guys this morning, and I'd say probably 90% of those 3 hours was spent just working on the podcast network. So absolutely understand. Yes, you're right. It does take a good bit of time, but it's also pretty rewarding, and especially when you're seeing some listeners' growth and some good content you're putting out, you feel pretty good about it.
When Rob emailed me and said you were going to be on, I went over and took a look at your website, and let me see if I can bring that up here on the screen for you. I hope we got the right site, themesh.tv. And
that is it. Absolutely.
And I'm seeing, obviously it looks like you are very country associated. It looks like you got a number of
well, here's the funny thing is that I'm not a country music fan at all. I couldn't even tell you anything about it. But being in North Carolina, being in Western North Carolina, there is a good bit of audience for that. So that's one show we started up a few months ago, talking about country music news, and it's actually been pretty successful for us so far. And we got about a dozen shows that we regularly keep up with right now. Some monthly, some bi-weekly. Just kind of depends on what the format makes sense for. And we've been having a good time with it. Again, we're kind of started up about 2 years ago and slow growth on it, but happy with what we're building so far.
I love who does your album art. It's absolutely fantastic. Well,
thanks. We've actually got a designer in our office. He's a video guy by nature. A lot of my background's in the video world, and he's a video guy as well, but he's got a pretty good eye on graphic design. So he came up with the concepts, and he does all the album art for us to kind of keep it in a nice, consistent theme there.
Well, if he's ever looking for any sideline work, let me know, because I think I can.
Absolutely.
I can keep him busy, because album art is so important today, from from a content perspective, and Rob will attest to it. We've talked about it numerous times that updating the album art on a periodic basis seems to be like a show re-innovator. I can't even speak, but yeah, it gives you a boost, and
Yeah.
Well, I'm a big guy on consistency and branding, and a lot of my education has to come from the marketing world. So that was my number one stamp on the whole network, was just trying to get some sort of consistent brand and appearance to the whole thing. Try to avoid looking very disheveled or disjointed. So.
Yeah, and I think that was the big thing that really stood out for me as I saw your shows on Zune, was how good the album art was, because that is kind of a rare thing these days. I mean, it's I wish it wasn't as much of an issue as it is, but to see cover art and album art and a good kind of marketing presentation on your website and things like that, it's not that common out there. So
well, I don't think people always realize too that, I mean, just like with a movie in a motion picture in the movie theater, or album art of a CD, a lot of times that's what the consumer sees first glance, and they've got to make a decision right away if they want to watch this or buy it based simply on that one image. So that's definitely something I learned a good lesson a couple of years ago, is really put some good energy in the album art. That's got a better chance of getting people to check out your show. And I agree with you, Rob. I wish it wasn't that way. I wish the content was the predominant thing that obviously attracted everybody, but you got to get something to get them in the door. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's the first thing that they see. So it's I know it's important for me, because I build my my features on my hub page, and I want art that's going to attract and get clicks. So.
One thing that I've said is running a network and having, you really kind of learned by School of Hard Knocks, when we started TPN back in 2005, was I thought, hey, I've got this great idea. I'm sure everyone's going to have the same thoughts and processes, and let's do it as a co-op, and that really worked well.
I'm sure.
Trying to keep the altruistic, being, this is podcasting. We're all going to work together and move forward as one team. And
sing Kumbaya, and everybody just has a great time.
That's right. Boy, how quick did I figure out that was a misnomer? But we changed the structure of the network later. But one thing I always like to ask guys that are starting networks, or in mid process, or a ways along like you are right now, how are you handling the cat herding of the talent? How's that? What is your process? And do you scope talent out, and do you sign them? And every network has their own little thing. But if you want to share, if you don't, it's okay. But
oh, no, it's fine. And actually, it's a pretty simple story here. We're in Western North Carolina. I'm in a little town called Hickory, which great city, but it is fairly small. It's about 45 minutes northwest of Charlotte. And podcasting is still a very, very new idea around here. I'm still spending more time just educating people on how do you find podcasts, how do you download them, how do you play them. And so that's a little bit of a challenge, and where that comes into play is really on the talent side too. We've got some extremely talented, gifted people in the area here, but what we're a little low on are those celebrity levels, I guess, the people that really can attract attention on their own and really bring a following with them. So we're really having to build it up from the ground up. I'm just going after people I know in the area that have a pretty good comfort level in front of the mic, and have some great content they can talk about, and we try to build it from there. But that's been probably the biggest challenge for us, is not being in the big city, not having quite the connections, maybe especially in the tech world or other places, to have some of those experienced people who have already worked on podcast or already have an audio format type program ready to go, and trying to get that built up. So.
Well, I think, even with me here in Hawaii, I'm, within 20 miles, I'm within 700,000 people. So, but I've really never focused on finding the talent locally. I've always went, and we basically have recruited the shows and, look for stuff to, people to come on and be part of the network. And people ultimately have found us, through discovery, with Google search discovery and that kind of stuff, and have asked to join. And then we have a small vetting process. But, I think one of the things I've found, even with the few shows that, I have two entities, of Raw Voice and our networks, and then Geek News Central, which is its own gig. It's something that I own personally. And then, here we do Saturday Morning Tech, and we've got the Robot Underpants with Langley and Gadget Professor with Don Bain. And one thing that we've always seen is that, that small group, we work real well together, and there's no issues, but there's always challenges when you are, it's the thing I found is it just gets discouraging for me as a guy comes in with a new show. It's really good. He is, maybe only 20 or so shows into, or 20 episodes into creating content, and he gets a little discouraged about his numbers, and he just doesn't give it enough time, and says, okay, I'm done. This is too much work. There's not enough return for what I'm doing. And I think people have this is an instant gratification world, and they have expectations that just are not realistic in starting a new show. So are you running into any of that there?
Oh, absolutely. We've had probably 2 or 3 shows already where it's just the steam runs out. The steam runs out with your host, with people that are involved in the show. You don't see the numbers yet, and I'm the big believer, and you got to stick it out and just and give it time. But it is a tougher game for some people to play on that. I'm encouraged by knowing that those shows that we stuck with, we do see the numbers go up over time. It's just it may be a slower build than what we expect or what we want, but the numbers are going up. So it is a matter of once the content gets regular, people can expect. I mean, just like I'm sure you guys all obviously know, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. But it is discouraging when you've got some shows, some really good ideas, great people involved, and a few months in, they just they don't see the return on it. So it's easy for them to fizzle out. And again, because this is a on the side business for a lot of us, there's not a whole lot of money to swap around and share. So if people aren't seeing the return, they're not seeing the listeners, and of course there's not a lot of money involved in it, it's really easy to drop it, and it's a shame. But it's just I can't blame anybody for dropping out, because it is time intensive. There's a lot to it. It's just it's one of those things where you give it time. I'm a firm believer the stuff comes around, especially if you've got good content to build it on.
And I see you do mostly video too, which is interesting. You've built a video network versus a audio network, correct?
Well, we're still primarily audio on the mesh, but I'm a video guy. Our company, Jackson Group Interactive, that runs the mesh, is a video production firm. We've been producing corporate videos, training videos since about 94, 95. And I'd love to push more of our shows to video. We're working on that at the moment. We've got a couple that are video based. The rest are all audio still. But I'd love to have a great mixture. I think there's some content that, obviously works so much better in video.
Right.
The rest, audio, we'll get there eventually, making them all video. But for now, if it's just dialogue based, we're keeping it audio based just for the essence of time and labor. So.
Well, I think the domain's great too. Love it. Rob,
thanks.
From a network standpoint, I'm pretty pleased to see more networks popping up. Until you sent me the email yesterday, I wasn't familiar with Alan's network, and so I'm seeing 2 or 3 things in here. I'm like, oh, I need to subscribe to that. So we're really, aren't we? There's a lot of discovery issues still in the space, don't you think, Rob?
Oh yeah, I think so too. I mean, I do see a lot of new networks popping up, and that's been going on for a couple of years now, where there's been folks that have, they'll start one show or something like that, and they'll just add another one and then another one, and eventually they've got themselves a network. And and some of them are doing it right, and some of them are kind of struggling, but there are quite a few of them out there that are trying to make a go of it. And I think it's all really good. What's going on, I think, a little bit is that, a lot of these networks kind of struggle with the concept of having kind of own shows versus outsourcing, and or they get shows that started up on their own, pitching these networks to join. And so, Alan, are you finding that you're getting pitched from current podcasts that want to join the network, or is that something that you would want?
When we first started, we had this probably elitist idea of we're going to create all of our own content and we're just going to do it right here from our studios in Western North Carolina and keep it very local. And that changed pretty quick. After a few months, we thought, okay, wait a minute, there's probably some better people and better content sources that we can start looking at outside of this area as well to supplement what we're doing. So we have brought in a few shows from outside. There's been about 3 shows so far that were either already existing through another on their own as a podcast, and they were looking for more of a network support for marketing and branding. And we've brought them on, and we are opening our doors a bit more to look at some of that outside content. You know, I'm really big in this region where I live, in this area, and trying to do as much as I can to help the economy grow a little bit here and to get us a little more attention when it comes to workforce development and other things. So I've still got this belief that I want to see Western North Carolina celebrities and people and topics grow. But at the same time, you know, we're also about building the network and trying to get some good content out there. So we are opening the door. We're keeping our options open on things. And we've seen ourselves migrate a little bit more from just a production house to a hosting and network provider to a lot of these sources as well.
Mm-hmm. You know, and anything, you know, doing shows and stuff take money and take sponsors. I want to talk a little bit about that, but I do want to take just a second and want to thank one of our sponsors here today. This month, GoDaddy has got an incredible deal for us, and they've actually put 2 deals together for the show. And when he sent these over, I just couldn't believe it. If I can find my little the correct lower third to throw up, they basically came out and said, "Hey, we're gonna make an offer for your listeners and viewers that if they need a hosting account, $1 a month for an economy plan." I was just like, $1 a month? Or just like, are you going to give it away? Are you still am I still going to get my commission at $1 a month? And they said, oh yeah, no, don't worry. It's going to be $1 a month for 12 months. So for $12, you can get an economy hosting plan over at GoDaddy by using the promo code HostDeal5, HostDeal5. Now, if you are already have a hosting plan and you have some domains and everything else over there, you're getting ready to renew, or you want to pick up a server or something like that, you missed the big code over the Super Bowl weekend. You could have saved almost 50% on your renewal, but we've got one that's close here, 35% off your order by using Go35 off. Go35 off 5 is the code. Of course, the links will be up in the show notes and on Geek News Central. So the 295.com domain is still available as well. We can get just 1 versus 3 now. So all those links are at Geek News Central. We want to thank GoDaddy for being a sponsor here. And I tell you, if this doesn't get you in the door over there, nothing will. $1 a month for a hosting account, 35% off on a renewal or a new product that may be a little more expensive than a standard economy hosting plan, and $2.95 on a .com is just insanely cheap. So get over there and you know, cheap doesn't mean it's cheap. It means cheap. I mean, you're getting a good value and a great product. Geek News Central and all my properties are hosted on GoDaddy servers and hosting accounts, everything else. So we use the product and live by it. So definitely check it out. geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy for all of the codes here at Geek News Central. So thanks, GoDaddy, for being a sponsor. Now, that being said, with the sponsorship stuff, you know, how long have you guys actually been running, Alan? And are you guys starting to look for sponsors, or how's that been working out for you?
We've been running almost 2 years. I think July will be our 2-year anniversary. And we've got a small handful of sponsors, some people, mostly regional, local sponsors. We haven't quite crossed over into looking at something on a larger scale, national advertisers or being a part of any kind of advertising network. Most of our advertising has just been local firms that want to try something new, want to try something a little different with their advertising dollars than they've done before. The one thing we have done that I think has helped us out a little bit in that arena is that several of our shows actually help kind of cross promote other businesses either I'm involved with or other companies we have. So for some of that, we just eat the cost and know that it's a good sales promotion work for the other company. So it hasn't been as much of a need to do the sponsorship there yet. But the other sponsors, yes, we do have a small array of sponsors that have worked with us. We're definitely still looking for a few more and starting to explore now in the next few months a little bit more strategic decisions on how we handle advertising.
Well, one thing it's good about, at this point in your business, being able to and not have to focus so much on the sponsorship. You come over to my website and, what do I have? I've got a banner on top for GoDaddy, got a banner on the side for Dine. And, that's not conducive to a nice, clean design, when you have to throw the advertising in there. I'm just like last night I was sent basically a quick tweet out to some of the folks that we work with, said, hey, we're getting ready to do a new Audible campaign. Are you interested? And, there's a lot of work that goes into the advertising stuff. And
sure.
And but it's cool that you're doing the local thing. I think that's smart as well. And getting those local vendors, especially if they help, cover some basic costs and maybe put a few dollars in your pocket. That really, I think, is a smart way to go too.
Well, we're at least getting the production costs covered, which was our main goal with the whole thing, is that we feel like, the hours we're putting in every week, we're getting recouped for those. Our hosting costs are getting taken care of. Not much past that, but right now that's all we really need to do to keep this thing going. We've still got our other production work that's keeping us busy during the day. But I think the model's there, and we feel pretty good about what we're building. And I'm actually learning a lot, even having gone back and watched some of the different media and podcast shows you guys put together, and some other ideas and thoughts you guys have had in the past about podcasting and network. It's been some good help. Absolutely.
Hey, Rob, when you're looking at shows that come in, how, on average, are you seeing how many shows are running ads in their content? Can you tell? Do you have a kind of an idea just on some of the stuff you're looking at?
Well, I have to be frank about it. It's usually the shows that are coming out of a bigger network are typically the ones that have ads in them. I wouldn't say that a lot of the shows that are just being started by like one person or a group of guys or something like that are able to monetize. So I think that the trend is moving towards if you want to make money in podcasting, you really have to be part of a network to accomplish that. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And Todd, you're probably seeing that as well. That the advertiser wants to buy a larger audience base. And I think that can be achieved more easily in a network situation.
Yeah, and the number of calls I get anymore that are saying, hey, I want to do, a small buy of 3 or 4 shows, I'm not getting very many of those calls anymore.
Yeah.
I took a call earlier in the week by a vendor, and, you don't want to say what's your budget. You have to at some point. So we're getting 30 minutes in the conversation. I'm like, okay, I understand your product. I understand who you're trying to reach. I understand your goals. All right, so how much is your budget for the year? And he threw out a number that I was just like, absolutely, we can put a hell of a deal together for you for that. But it's, you talk all this time, and then the guy says, well, we want to do a $3,000 buy over 3 months. You're like, let me put you in touch with a couple of shows, and you can work with them directly. Because quite frankly, it's almost not worth my time to do, because then oftentimes those vendors that spend a small amount of money, I don't want to belittle them, but they can be a pain in the butt.
And they're not going to get the results that they're hoping to see at spending at that low level as well.
Well, they'll get the results that get the results.
It's all about scale, right?
Yeah, but at the same point, they are very demanding usually, and under intense pressure by maybe their boss. You just spent $3,000 on a podcast advertising campaign. I could have spent that on local radio or something, and so it can be a challenge. Well, it sounds like you're doing some cool stuff over there, Alan, at the Mesh. Rob, have you got any more questions on his network, or are we ready to move into a little more tech stuff? I think you've got a hard time. You got to leave, don't you, Alan? Or
a little bit before 1.
Okay.
But I should be good for a while. I'd love to just listen in and chime in whatever I can on the tech stuff too. That'd be fun.
Rob, did you have some questions for Alan?
Oh, I just wanted to ask one question. So what's your thought on getting more involved in video with your podcasting effort?
Well, that's our ultimate goal. My whole goal actually is I still see the TV set as the big end game here for a lot of us. I think I'm a huge believer that when you can turn on your TV set and your video podcasts are queued up, the ones you subscribe to, right there ready for you on the main menu, much like Apple TV's got a little bit of that going on, Google TV's got a little bit. But to me, video is still the end result. I mean, that's what I started when back in the 80s and 90s. I was editing video back on 3/4-inch decks back in college and had a Amiga video toaster as my first editing suite. And I've been a video guy for 20 plus years at least. So I want all of our shows to be video. But right now it's just knowing that the time involvement, the bandwidth involved, it's something we've got to be a slow build to. But that's definitely the end result, end goal for all of us. We've got all the equipment and technology. Right now it's just the time and the server capacity and bandwidth capacity is the only thing that's really holding us back.
Sure. Yeah, I've noticed that here over the last 6 months or more that I've started to watch more live shows than I ever had before, and I'm just wondering the whole phenomenon. It's kind of two parts here. I kind of see with my work with Zune and Windows Phone on the podcast area that there's not as many video podcasts out there, new ones coming out as there used to be. I see a lot more audio shows coming out, but it kind of begs the question: what do you think the future of video podcasting has? I mean, what's the opportunity there? Do you see it growing, or does it have to get to the television, or do you see video podcasting becoming stronger over time, or is streaming going to win out here in the long run?
Honestly, I've been thinking actually a lot about this, Rob, trying to think the same questions personally. I think it's, for me, at least what I see, and again, I'm in a different market here. I'm surrounded by a lot of different people.
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing right now, the video side of things, nobody really is wanting to download videos onto their portable devices to watch as a podcast.
True.
The streaming side of things, I think, is intriguing, and I think on the on any website, streaming is still a method that most people are really into and enjoy doing, and I don't think there's any restrictions there for people. I still think the biggest barrier there is once it gets to the TV set, once a video podcast can be downloaded, subscribed to, and queued up on a TV set, I think all of a sudden everything goes video. I mean, that's just what I'm kind of believing and seeing is going to happen. In the meantime, most people are still consuming the podcast through, listen while they're driving, while they're exercising, while they're doing something else. And this is more something that's going on in the background, possibly. That's why I just think audio is still the predominant format, and it's going to be that way until all the connections with the NPV set come to play, or until streaming becomes a lot more available. Live broadcasts for me scare me to death. Actually, getting me on a live show here was pretty impressive for you guys. I used to work in live broadcasts back in my college years, and it would just stress me out to no end before every recording. So I love the much more the downloadable format, but I realize streaming, I think that's if we could cross that border and get into streaming, I think we'd see our video hits and numbers increase dramatically. But I still think the TV is the end game for a lot of us on the video side of things. That's just me personally, the way I see it.
I think what we see here, and what actually, it was ends to the means for me when I started streaming the show. The ends is that it made me a better content creator, because you're live, you make a mistake, oh well, tough, there's no editing. But with the streaming, you also got the dual function of being able to record it, and it was, you're basically able to make that archive available to be streamed later. I think one thing that from our perspective is, I don't care how people get the content as long as they get it, whatever glass they come to. If they come to the website and click play and want to watch it there, and in essence stream it, technically they're still truly downloading it, but most people have no idea that's what's really happening. They are streaming it. And I think on the mobile devices, I think you're correct. What I find, at least, is I make 3 video episodes of my show. I make one that's high def, one that's middle of the road, and one that's mobile ready. And almost all the mobile stuff that hits that video is people clicking a play button on a website, or basically in the app. But I think, Alan, with you, I'm in the agreement about the set-top box. At least Raw Voice was one of the very first in the Roku. We were like channel 26 or something like that. And I very early on knew that that was the ultimate destiny. But the challenge we have is when I went to CES, and I'm talking with LG, talking with Samsung, talking with Sony. They want to regulate or relegate the content, the digital content, to a subcategory. It's not on the front screen. They want to make it so that channel 1 through 1200 is the very first thing you get when you turn it on, and they don't want to have this ability to have it seamless in the menu system. You have to click, 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 click to get to content. And I think if Apple comes out with an Apple TV, which I feel they will, or they upgrade the API in the Apple TV to make it available to put channels in there, to put apps in there. And if they do it right, if they make it so that I can subscribe to, let's say CNN, if I want to have A&E, if I want to have the Learning Channel, Disney, whatever I want to have, those 4 or 5, and then click Channel 6's Geek News Central programmed, that is game-changing. Now, will they do it? I don't know, because the television lobby is a multi-billion-dollar. They are very, very powerful, and the only people that's going to change are the TV manufacturers or someone like Apple that'll come in and disrupt. I think Roku and Google TV have done a good job, but the mainstream doesn't know what those are usually. They may know what a Roku is.
Yeah, I think it's really a big question mark right now, what's going to happen with the TVs, because I think if you look at kind of the Uber trends of what's going on, and you look at mobile devices as far more important than TVs now in most people's lives. And I start to wonder if the TV over time just becomes a dumb screen, not the opposite. It's not like our main computers are going to live in the television. And I start to think that maybe how we should start to think about this is that these portable devices and these tablets become the primary source of content for our larger screens. And I think that may be the direction that this is going. I'm starting to think that way more and more, that most people just want to have the content on their TVs. They don't want their TVs to be supercomputers, right? That have all that stuff in there, because most people already have it on their tablets. Now, it depends on what kind of content that you're consuming. I mean, obviously, the TV industry is going to want to rule the set-top box. They're going to want to control all that stuff. And as long as they can maintain that connection between a set-top box and a cable provider as the core source of content to a big screen display, then that's what people are going to use. But I think it's a kind of a generational thing. I think younger people are never going to get cable television. I mean, I know both of my kids that are in their 20s, they don't care to have cable television at all. They've never had it. I mean, sure, they had it when they lived here, but they're now living on their own, and they didn't go out and buy cable connections. They got cable internet, and they have flat screens, and they have screen devices. But I just think that our mobile phone and our tablets are going to be where the content comes from in the future. So I'm not so sure that this building an app in a television is gonna be where the game is moving to. And I kind of wonder about this Apple TV, and it may be the reason that we haven't seen an Apple TV is because I'm not sure that Apple wants to build a smart television.
Well, if you look at the numbers, Rob, the average American family has 5 televisions in their homes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So and they replace a TV every 2 to 3 years. I don't think TVs are going anywhere anytime soon. Now, my 22-year-old, the reason she doesn't have a TV, she can't afford it. So she's on the internet. Wow. So I think people like the big screens for big events. I don't know. I'm mixed feelings on this. We'll see. I would only hope that everything goes digital. I think I'm with Alan in the hope that this is where it's going to go and playing a lot of cards. But
no, I think it does too. I think it's definitely going to go that way. It's just a matter of time.
Now we'll see if we can play this video from Samsung without getting a copyright violation on the show. I'm afraid. I'm half afraid to play stuff anymore. Anything that's got to play it on from YouTube and then record it into the show. So I'm not going to spend I may switch back and forth out of the video a little bit while it's going so that we can do this. I'm definitely not going to play any of the audio because that'll get flagged immediately. But let me see if I can bring this up and talk about this screen that you were talking about. Oh, so it's playing real well here. Not. It's choppy. So you got the guy walking up with a newspaper, right? So is he going to demonstrate this new flexible screen? Is that what's going to happen, Rob?
It's the guy on the right side of the girl.
Okay.
So, so the camera hasn't shown that yet.
Oops. So let me wait till he okay, so right here he comes. Oh, so he's got this. Oh, maybe I missed it.
Yeah,
she's boy, it's awful choppy.
Yeah, she's actually holding it. But so the whole context of this is that Samsung was showing off their thin, flexible screens for mobile devices, and they played this video as a kind of like a demonstration of the technology of what could be built in a mobile device.
Right.
And so I thought it was very, very interesting. I saw this demo that they showed here, and I thought that this device that they had here may be a glimpse of what kind of device we're going to see in the future. And it's really what really was fascinating about it for me was the fact that it was a blend of a regular mobile phone and a tablet all in one device.
Gotcha.
So you have this larger screen that's about the size of, like maybe a 7-inch or 8-inch tablet that folds in half, and on the outside of the device is a regular size, like a 4 or 5-inch screen that is like your phone. So you basically use it like a phone when it's closed, and then you open it up and it's a tablet, and it's got a really thin screen.
But Rob, Time Warner says we don't need 1 gig internet. We don't need all this bandwidth. They say we've got enough already. There's no demand.
Of course they're going to say that, Todd, right?
So that's that's the next question is all this stuff on a mobile device is fantastic, but are they going to have the bandwidth to make the experience to the point where it's enjoyable?
Todd, I've got a cable connection that we run our internet through here at our house, and I'm about ready to cut cable TV. I'm a big NCAA basketball fan, so the only way for me to watch a lot of the games is still through cable. But my biggest fear right now, I don't have any kind of bandwidth caps through our internet connection yet. We have one of the few providers, I think, that are still holdouts on the whole bandwidth cap, and I'm extremely nervous when that may happen, because I know right now we're streaming several movies a week, HD versions of movies. We're streaming live events, a lot of YouTube video we're piping up on our Apple TV. So I'm nervous about the bandwidth caps, and I'm nervous about what our bandwidth capacity is going to be the more we're trying to push this stuff through. So far, it's been keeping up okay for everybody, but when this stuff goes completely online, which it will in the coming years, I have no idea what that's going to mean for our bandwidth capability available to us.
Someone asked me in Twitter, they said, why do you need gig? Why do you need gigabit Ethernet? And I said, why not? Why not? I've got to, and even though the internet infrastructure is not, my servers can't handle a 1 gig connection with, more than one person, but let's look at it a different way. My son's playing Xbox. My daughter's in the back playing PlayStation. My son has an iPad. He's watching a movie. My wife is, on Facebook, and I'm here in the office doing what I do.
Yeah.
So we're all using, and so, on show nights, I tell the kids, no Xbox, no streaming Netflix. You have to be bandwidth wise. You can surf the internet and do your email, but don't be pushing nothing or pulling nothing. And because if you do, I'm going to get knocked offline or have an issue. So I'm already, and I got 50 down, 3 up. And, and it took, 20 years to get that. It's just, and we're 16th in the nation from a speed, a 16th in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
From a speed perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Plus also, very, very quickly here, I mean, all I have to do is look at what was shown at CES and all these 4K TVs. You start thinking about streaming 4K video content.
Yeah.
You need a lot more bandwidth than we're getting now to really do that effectively.
I had the Red producer, or the guy from Red on the show at CES, and he's like, "You got to go 4K," and I'm like, "Why? Why do I need to go 4K?" I said, "My listeners are already having trouble even pulling a 320 by 180, screen down." He said, "Well, you'll need the master content," and I said, "I think I'll wait a few years. It's cinematic stuff is fine, but."
Yeah. I mean, it's coming. It's not here. You're exactly right. I mean, I mean, just look at what we're doing with this show. We have a hard enough time getting a good solid HD or even half HD, probably quality type of video presentation. I mean, I think we've got years to go, and I'm not sure that these big cable companies want everybody to go that direction, because it's going to add to their costs to build higher capacity infrastructure, which they reluctantly want to do because they want to make big bucks. They want to keep raising the prices and not have to build any infrastructure.
Did you hear what AT&T said about the if you have Google Glasses, what they're going to charge you? Oh, wait till you hear this. Wait.
$1,500 for the glasses.
Okay,
right?
Okay, so they figure if you can afford the $1,500 glasses, you can afford the bandwidth that goes along with those $1,500 glasses. So this is what the folks at AT&T said, and this was over at Adaptive Glasses Mobile Trends site. Of course, someone come up with adaptive. So AT&T plans to charge up to $14.99 for each. Hold on to your hats. 250 megs, not gigs. 250 megs of Google Glass usage. This will be on top of your normal cell phone plan and normal data plan, as well as on top of an additional $15 to $15 a month to enable the data usage for Google Glass.
But, Todd, do we even know what kind of bandwidth this thing's going to even consume? I mean, I know I've read about it, and I would think it's almost kind of premature to even be announcing their pricing at this point, because we as consumers don't know, is this thing going to be pushing megabytes of data every single second, which I kind of think it could if it really wanted to be with images and video or whatnot. It's so early to tell on that, but no matter what, 250 megabytes for that kind of price is still outrageous. I mean, that's really, really high dollars.
I think that the big question is whether or not this thing is going to have an independent connection to a 4G or an LTE network, or is it going to tether?
Tether at this point. So, here's the thing, though. If you think about it, if you have an SD, and I'm not even knowing if this is going to work, but let's say you want to watch a Netflix movie on your Google Glass. And I don't know if that's realistic, but that's only a half hour of Netflix on an SD movie. That's maybe 100 pictures, that you could push through this thing. Hey, I'm going to be the guy that's going to be laying out the $1,500 and buying one of these immediately.
Are you really? I was going to ask you guys if you guys see this as something as the next big thing for us.
Absolutely, because it's the applications are yet to be known, and the only way you're going to figure out what it's going to be good for is to wear it. Now, just recently, I was testing an Android Optimus G phone, and I had to send that. Matter of fact, the phone went back last week, but I got hooked up, and I got hooked on this new game that Google has called Ingress. And matter of fact, I registered a domain, ingresspodcast.com. That tells you how much I'm into it. I don't game, but this Ingress game is a worldwide game that you play when you're outdoors. And so I just leveled up to level 2, which is really nothing. I'm still a noob. But so what did I do? I went out and bought a Samsung phone on Virgin Mobile, got the data plan just to, the very basic one, just to play Ingress. And Ingress is very much visual. You have to walk around. It's these virtual portals, and you can see it on the screen. Long story short, I am going to be using, I'm sure Google Glass will have Ingress built into it. Has to. So for me, that's the exciting part, the gaming, the communications.
Sure.
But but it's going to weird people out because you're going to be able to snap a picture, take a video anywhere. I'm sure there's going to be signs on doors, no Google Glass.
Yeah, I could definitely see that as going as well. Rob, what's your take on that? Is that the kind of thing you'd go out and buy and wear?
Well, I'm going to have to wait until they get a version of it that is adaptable to existing eyeglasses. I know they're actually working on that. I don't know if I mean, I probably would. I mean, I think that they're going to have a big impact on social interaction, I think. I mean, if you see more and more people having these things all pointed at each other and they all have cameras on them at any time, people are going to be, I mean, you're going to have to be really, really careful what you say and what you do in front of people. If everybody in the room has Google Glasses on and everybody's recording video or streaming live to their personal websites or something like that they're at some party, I mean, we're all going to be under video surveillance at all moments in our lives.
We already are, Rob. So
well, I know, but I mean, at a very personal level, right? I mean, you're talking to someone right in front of you, and they have a camera pointed in your face. And both of you have a camera pointed in your face.
Could you imagine wearing the glasses and you're walking down the street and it identifies a person as a venture capitalist or a business owner or something?
No, I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. I mean, you're going to be able to. Yeah, I saw another video. I should say this. Also, I shared it on Facebook here recently. That had this. It was like a 5-minute video that created a dramatization of this experience of what I'm talking about. But what they showed is that it's like contact lenses in your eyes that has this capability, right? So you don't even, it's not like you're wearing a piece of hardware on your face. It's like just normal. And this guy's bedroom where this drama, or this guy's apartment where this drama took place in, his whole apartment just had furniture. There was nothing on the walls. The whole place was just stark, right? Because when he looks around, his contact lenses adds all of the pictures and everything to his apartment. It's all virtual. It's augmented reality, right? So your life is like a canvas, right? You can lay on the floor in your living room and skydive, right?
Yeah.
And all you need to have is a carpet on your floor, and I mean, it creates your whole world around you because that's all you see is what comes out of this augmented reality experience.
Think about this dynamic. You're walking down the street and it flags a criminal. It flags a sexual predator.
Predator, sure.
All this stuff that, there's going to be huge civil liberty issues with these things. I am sure that the ACLU is probably getting their chomps ready to bite into this thing, but it's just the way it is. Hey, you see someone and you don't know who they are, or you don't remember, and it says, and it pulls up a contact list as you last talked to John a year and a half ago. You guys talked about this. He's got 3 kids and a wife, and as a matter of fact, his wife's birthday is in 2 days, and blah 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 blah. And instantly, you're not going to be in a situation where you're going to say, I don't remember your name anymore, and it's going to be vice versa. And then,
Todd, this I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then you're going to have the thing that's going to say, this guy was an asshole or whatever. You just it's endless.
Honestly, this is the first technology though for me. I've always been an early adopter of technologies. I'm the one preaching it to all my family and friends. This is something really good for our society. This is a good source of technology. This is the first one I've actually felt like the old fogey in the room, where I'm the one saying, oh, I don't know, I don't think we need this. I don't know. This is going to be too intrusive. I know it's probably one of those things, once I put the Google glasses on and I start seeing the information, I guarantee it's going to be a whole different story. But for now, I'm still very skeptical. It's like with any good technology. If all the people in the world using it were good, moral, ethical people, it would be perfect. It's just, unfortunately, you don't have that kind of society anywhere. So where everybody's 100% on the up and up. So you're always going to have to deal with that.
And that the capability might be beyond, what it's capable of at this point. But if we're thinking it, someone's already thought about this 5 years ago, and they're already figuring out, how do we get to that to that level. And, think about law enforcement uses. They're already carrying cameras, but if a camera says, like, hey, this guy's wanted on he's got a warrant or something, it's just, yeah, it's big. It's really big. We're coming up to the top of the hour. Alan, I know you got to buzz out here in a few minutes, but
Sure.
So just again, of course, we want to encourage everyone to go over to the mesh.tv, check out Alan's network, and check out the shows over there. What do you think? What would you say your premiere show is? Is it the Mesh, or which one is the one you guys really spend a lot of?
There's one show that hosted by someone near dear to me, my sister, who I actually work with. We have a family-owned business, but my sister hosts a show called Chick Chat, and it's not the one I would have thought would have taken off on our network, but it is the one that has gotten the most attention right now. It's a very gossip, entertainment, celebrity discussion, something I know absolutely, again, nothing about, just like with the country music show. The shows that are taken off, unfortunately, are the ones that I don't really have any knowledge about on the subject matter. But they just get around, they talk, they have a good time gossiping about things that are going on, the celebrity world, stories online, all of that. That show took off like wildfire. We've actually probably got more listeners in other states than we even do in North Carolina. And my understanding is California, New York, it's a pretty big hit in those other states as well. So that's probably our biggest show from a traffic standpoint and notoriety standpoint right now. But we've also got a pretty good leadership development show we put together. That one's a lot of fun to work with, where I host that with my father, who's actually a leadership consultant. So he and I talk a little bit on a father-son basis about the role of leaders in today's business world. So those two shows, I'd say, are kind of our premier ones that are getting the most traffic right now.
Well, it sounds like you're off to a great start. I wish you the absolute best of luck in what you guys are doing over there. And when you guys are ready to start commercializing a little more, drop me a line. Love to work with you guys. And
absolutely.
But very cool. I'm definitely going to. I don't know if I'll subscribe to Chick Chat or not, because I'm not. I'm not.
You can just don't tell anybody you did. It's one of those guilty pleasure things you don't tell anybody about.
That's right.
So.
Yeah, it's a good show. I was listening to it yesterday. It's a fun show. Yeah,
it was fun.
Go check it out.
Guys, thanks so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Love to have you back in the future too. So thanks for coming on.
Sure. Yeah. Great. Thanks.
Thanks, Alan. It's great to meet you. Yep.
All right. You guys too. Take care of yourself.
Yep. Rob, I love network guys that are full of energy, a lot of piss and vinegar. It's exciting. I love to see guys that are just like excited about the space and, having the same energy. So many, I talk to so many individuals and they're like, yeah, I'm doing my show. I'm like, get excited about what you're doing, and that's part of it. So
no, exactly. I know I'm always trying to reach out to new guys that are in, podcast networks that maybe aren't as plugged into the podcast community, because a lot of these guys kind of feel a little isolated out there. I totally understand that. And so I try and reach out to them and have a conversation with them and pull them into the fold, as one might say. I'm working on a couple of other ones right now that are kind of fairly prominent podcast networks that I'll definitely invite on the show here over the next few weeks.
And if I can just stay home long enough for us to do the show, right? And we may want to look at too, and I'll have to clear it with the wife. I don't know how your Sundays look, but maybe we can shift the show once in a while if if I'm not available and we can come in a day after or something, do it. I think it would be good for a consistency standpoint. I want to talk just a little bit about an article that came out on the EFF where there's a new law being proposed. They're calling it a patent troll, or actually I think they call it SLAP. Basically, where if someone goes after a group or goes after a company for patent infringement, if the person, it's called SHIELD Act, excuse me, not SLAP.
Yeah, it's a SHIELD Act. Yeah.
It'd make patent trolls financially liable for all legal costs and unsuccessful lawsuits. So, have you heard anything? Do you guys see anything back channel on this from anybody, or has there been discussion on what they think the impact of this would be if it gets through?
Oh yeah, actually, there's been quite a bit of attention in the podcaster community here over the last 3 or 4 days about this act, and it really centers around this concern that the community has around this patent holder that's going after podcasters, and 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 I think it's an opportunity to kind of take the incentive out of going after folks that and I think it's really trying to target people that don't really have an active business around that patent. So it's trying to really go after that quote unquote the patent troll per se. But I think that there is a a concern that I have that excuse me, there's so much attention around this patent activity with podcasters that it has the potential of scaring away a lot of potential content providers. That's my big worry right now, is that people will say, well, I don't want to start a podcast because I might get sued, And I think that this law, if it passes, will hopefully alleviate some of that concern. But it's hard to say. Word spreads about that there's a patent problem and they might get sued for thousands and thousands of dollars. I don't want to start a podcast because I don't have that much money and all that stuff. And I mean, my opinion about it is that sure, they may go after a lot of podcasters, but they're really only going to pursue ones that are the biggest ones, right? Or the ones that are making a lot of money. Because that's a commonly known thing in the law side of things, is that people only bring suits mainly against people that there's some pockets there that they can go after money. But I just would hate to see the whole podcast space kind of start to decline because of fear.
I think looking at it from a non-podcasting standpoint, the law itself also protects a huge segment of the tech industry. We've got so many of these, so many of these issues going on. It's crazy. I have to apologize. Those of you that are seeing this video, this audio, I mean, the lighting issue here in the studio. I had one of my shades that I use to keep the sun out of the room has fell down, so I'm getting this flood of light that's hit me directly in the face. So,
Todd, your studio's falling apart.
Yeah, it is. What I need to do is I need to invest in some real. You think I would have put up some real shades here or something over the past couple of years, instead of just this big black tarp, or basically what it is. It lines the walls in the back. So I don't know. I guess we'll see where this leads. But I was actually, you had sent me also a link to that video on Vimeo, the site.
Yep.
So I'll have that link up so you guys can watch that post show that you were talking about earlier. So I guess we'll see. We'll see where this goes. I hope people will reach out to their representative and tell them to support this action. I don't know how much traction it's getting. I hope it gets enough to make its way through. We'll see.
I hope so too.
Let's talk just a little bit about the White House is debating actions on retaliating against foreign cyber attacks. Now they're trying to figure out what the response should be when the U.S. government is attacked. They're trying to figure out what level, what the policy is going to be. This has been making the rounds pretty big here in the last couple of weeks, of course, with all the hacks going on with the news agencies and the ongoing stuff that the Chinese are doing and other foreign agencies. What do you think about them, basically coming up with a policy that is basically going to say, we are going to do this if this happens? I don't know if they're going to publish that or not, but
I think it's interesting that they're thinking of a little bit of a war policy here about what they're going to do if they get attacked, and what's the appropriate response for certain types of attacks. I think it's probably really important that we get clear on that, because but it also speaks to the fact that we have some things in our arsenal that we can do to do against other people. So it's really one of those things that I'm sure that over the last decade or so we've developed some bombs of our own in the cyberspace world that we can toss at other networks that are trying to attack us to So it's a lot of the same kind of principles of war just in general, right? You have to have weapons and you have to have countermeasures and you have to have these type of things, and there needs to be some policy direction of how those things are deployed, just like there is in conventional war.
Yeah, and it'll be curious to see how it all, what if they even announce what the policy is going to be.
They probably won't, because they don't want the enemy to know. It's
Yeah.
probably going to be mostly top secret. I would think.
I would think. They may came out with some general guidelines, but who knows? Switching really the big gears here is SpaceX yesterday had another successful launch. They had a little glitch as they made orbit with the Dragon craft after they got off the pad, but it looks like they've resolved their issues. And instead of having a docking at the International Space Station today, it looks like they will go for a docking tomorrow. But I think I'm totally jazzed. SpaceX has, they've got a launch vehicle that is really starting to prove itself. They've got, obviously this contract with NASA, and this resupply mission looks like it's going to succeed. All they really didn't need at this point was a failure, but it's, baby steps in growing the platform, I'm sure but it was, what I thought was good is how fast they recovered. The one thing that I didn't like, and I don't know how fast that you were following this, but as soon as they had an issue, their big transparency kind of went down. I think they failed from a PR perspective, and they didn't tweet for a couple of hours after they had an initial issue. So my thought was, why, okay, you've got an issue. Let's be transparent about it. Let's talk about it, and let's tweet about it. And let's but instead they went silent for a couple of hours. Do you think they made a mistake there?
They're probably trying to limit the public damage that can happen from a failure. I mean, I can see it's not like you're out there, you want to be out there touting your failures, but I don't know. I mean, I think, if we want to have a more commercialized or private space side of it, I think, we would have seen more transparency from NASA. So I think it maybe is not a good sign, but it is a commercial operation, and commercial companies tend to react that way to those situations. So I'm just really excited to see some significant progress with SpaceX in this direction. I was really skeptical of the privatization of space, that it would be just all about money, and there wouldn't be a lot of progress. But I'm not sure why I felt that way. But I am really confident in Mr. Musk, just based on what I've seen him do with Tesla, that he's going to be able to make this thing work. And he's got some ambitious goals of trying to be a major provider to our effort going to Mars. So I think, the more we get into space, I think the better our country is in the long run, from a technological and an educational perspective, and our economy will be stronger because of it. So I'm really hopeful and got my fingers crossed. I'm a big space fan, myself. So.
Well, I am too, and I hope that they are able to continue having successful launches, because what this will ultimately mean is after they do the 12 lifts, they may be cleared to start to do, lift humans. And then we're not that I'm, want to say anything negative about the Russians, because they're keeping the International Space Station supplied with personnel.
Keeping the lights on.
But, we need to be able to do our own lift, and NASA needs to be back in that game as well. But with these budget cuts and everything that's going on, I'm sure that's gonna delay everything else. So it's kind of an interesting move here. Okay, the last thing I want to cover today, and unless you have anything else, Rob, is, did you hear about these scientists that linked rats' brains?
Linked them? No, I've heard about a lot of research about tapping into the brains, trying to trying to understand kind of the nerves kind of stuff. But no, I didn't hear about this specific story.
It's, as you can see, I'm trying to stay out of the light here.
Trying to avoid
the
beam of light.
Trying to avoid the beam of light. So let me bring up a webpage here. Over on The Verge, as reported, scientists linked rats' brains together over the internet to transfer sensory information.
Wow.
They actually have the rats wired, their brains wired together, and they say that this could lead to basically helping invalids, helping people that are paralyzed, helping, they basically, prior to this, they were already able to detect what a rat was thinking through stuff that they were downloading via the link. Now they had these rats like split between continents, and they were both wired up, and one was doing one thing, the other one would they were able to tell that they knew what each other were basically thinking by being wired up. Now, my big joke is when you get married, that's part of your marriage vows. You're going to have to go get wired up so that your wife knows what you're thinking, and vice versa. And I'm sure that'll work out well.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate. The names of these two is, decoder and encoder. So are guys decoders and women encoders? Is that what? So we're always trying to figure out.
Don't even want to go there with that, because that could have all kinds of sexual innuendos. But
I'm not meaning it that way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, encoder, decoder. Yeah. It's like plus and minus. So anyway, it's pretty cool what they've done, but I'm sure it weirds some people out. Of course, I'm sure the folks that are environmental or animal sensitive will say you're hurting these rats by having them wired up. But definitely an interesting move here. So I've changed the cameras. Hopefully, do I have a big white stripe across my head?
No, I can still see the light.
I may have to
avoiding the light.
I may have to get up and just fix that.
But I think that this kind of research is leading to us having kind of embedded technology in our brains. I think as we do more research into understanding how our brain works, and as we realize that this wet circuitry that we have in our heads can be melded with digital technology, I think we're going to see, and I think there's more research coming. I think a couple weeks ago that there was some news announcements about being able to restore sight using digital technology, and creating like a camera type of experience that works with your retina. So I think we're getting closer and closer and then these contact lenses that I was talking about that go on your eyes or whatever that have online connectivity. I think we're getting to that point where this wearable computer concept, I think it's 10 or 15 or 20 years out, but I think we're going to have a lot of pressure for us to integrate and add to our bodies technology that connects to digital networks. I think it's going to happen. It may not be in our generation, but I think it's coming.
Did you hear me crash?
Did I hear you crash? No, I didn't hear you crash. But the beam is gone.
Yeah,
the laser beam on your forehead is gone.
The beam is gone. I'm lucky I didn't knock a camera over, because I unplugged and went around the corner. I forgot I had some stuff on the floor there, tripped over it, and about fell on my face. That would have been good to hear me scream on the show. That would have been a classic.
Yeah, a little slapstick comedy on the show today is a good thing, right?
Yeah, but the beam...
You should have had the camera on you as you were doing.
Oh, my God, but the beam is gone. I have to fix that. That's priority number one now. I don't know. I've always thought it would be cool to be jacked in, but the more I think about it, the whole Matrix thing.
The whole Matrix thing scares the living jeebers out of me. Did you see that metal rod that they stick into your head? That's like, it's like 10 inches long, that thing. It's like, no, I don't want a big metal rod stuck into my skull. Sorry.
No, I think that was a good dramatization, but it's like, what are they going to do next? But, it all ties back to this glass thing. And it's if we could, if the society as a whole could really change real quickly. And so what do you do then? Do you have to, okay, so you got this sensory stuff. Um, and let's say it's not being used for a medical purpose, it's being used for a social purpose. What do you
Yeah.
do then? Do you have to have crypto so that you go into secure mode so someone can't interact with you? Is there, because you just can't. If we all knew what each other were thinking all the time, there would be nobody left on this planet, because everyone has, it's just human nature. Either that or people would have to get very, very thick skins, because no one would be friends.
Well, I think that it's not so much that it's going to share your thoughts. I think it's just going to enable you to connect to things that you want to connect to, but it's also exposing us to issues that we've never had to face before, of knowing details about people, not necessarily our thoughts, though it could get to that. But that's a long way. Yeah, I see you're playing with a bunch of effects this week, aren't you?
Yeah, did you notice that?
Yeah, I did. I did. So I think we're going to get access to data that helps us live our lives, and I think that's the big thing. And this book that being written by Robert Scoble, called The Age of Context, I think is really, really timely and appropriate to, I think, what's happening, with wearable computers, and we're moving down this path. And I think this is the next big technology revolution, is this context that we're seeing happen. I 100% agree with Robert that that's the big Uber trend that we're going to see, that hopefully has a lot of opportunity in the tech space going forward, because I think we've kind of a little plateaued with technology a little bit up to this point. The internet and the web has really kind of flowered to its potential, to the
Right.
level that it's at today, and there needs to be some big leap that happens that moves us forward. And I think unfortunately there's going to be a lot of people that are going to resist this, but this augmented reality thing, I think, is the next big shift.
Not only that, but did you like that one?
That one was sweet.
The Japanese robot suit has been approved for worldwide rollout.
Hey, there you go. That's what I need.
In all honesty, and this is again tying back to, this is largely for medical purposes. And it basically can make someone that's bedridden, allows them to be able to get out and move around. It gives them their sensory input. It's not super sophisticated, but one thing that I was pretty impressed with, it will work for 2.5 hours on a set of batteries. It's about $2,000, so it's not like this really incredibly priced. It's $2,000 for the base unit, then a monthly rental fee. So at some point we, Star Wars may not be that far off, because if I remember correctly, the color of this robot material kind of reminds me of some Star Wars X-Troopers or whatever they're called. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Stormtroopers.
Yeah, Stormtroopers. Yep. So, and if you're a Star Wars fan, I apologize. I got the terminology wrong. I won't do I won't do the Jedi mind meld that made the news.
So are we all becoming robots here, Todd? Is that what the kind of Uber thought of the day, right?
No, but you missed my political.
I did. Okay. Sorry.
No, I think we're going to be super connected and wired and everything else. And someone says that synchronicity is impossible, that we'll never be able to mind meld or to downlink or download our brains. They say it's impossible. The scientists say it won't happen. But I'm an optimist. I figure, I'm 48. I figure if I lose a little weight, eat well, stay healthy, don't drink too much whiskey, then I might make it to 80, 85. And if I can make it to 80, 85, and of course my family having basically all my family members lived into their late 90s, so I might even get lucky with the genes and be able to make it into the late 90s. Who knows? But can you just imagine if you still have your senses, where are we going to be in 30 years with this stuff? And
that's a good question.
Can't wait. I can't wait, but I would hope that these guys that are doing this stuff stay busy. And I know it makes a lot of people nervous, but to me as a geek, it's like super exciting.
Well, it is. I mean, it's kind of interesting. It could mean, I mean, especially this augmented reality, it could mean that as you get old, it really becomes kind of not important anymore, right? It kind of depends on how that technology advances. Age today, I think, is kind of a social, it's kind of a social hindrance to people. And I think with digital technology and augmented reality, I think age becomes less and less of a relevant issue with people. So, and maybe that's a good thing. Minds can be strong much longer than bodies can, right?
But in 10 to 15 years, they might be printing, replacement parts for us too. They're already getting to the point where they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff with, with skin transplants and that kind of stuff. So who knows where they're going to be with, with organ transplants. You think of all the people.
I think that I 100% agree with you. I think that we don't spend a lot of time on this show or the technology industry really focused on biotechnology, but I think that could also be where the big innovations happen in the next decade too. I think, there's really only so much that we can do. I was really thinking about this the other day about kind of, radio and TV and online and, newspaper, print, and because the internet and the web is really focused on kind of revolutionizing media, right? We've kind of done that now, right? I mean, sure, there's going to be small improvements, but where's the next big change that's going to happen from technology? And it's not going to be around, really, it's not going to be around television. It's not going to be around radio. We've kind of taken that to the next level. It's these other parts of life that need to be improved. And biotechnology is a huge part of that. And I think this, like we've been talking about, I think our ability to connect to data that helps our lives, not just entertains us. Because I think that the internet up to this point has been more focused on entertaining us and education. But data needs to help us live our lives. And I think that's the big revolution that we're coming into, is that it's going to provide us on just-in-time data to help us better and more efficiently live our lives. And I think that's the big revolution that we're coming into here.
Yeah, it's kind of curious. I guess I should probably pay a little more attention to some of this stuff because I look at the present. I don't do a lot of time. One thing I've been trying to do on a segment of my show, a regular show from time to time, is kind of talk a little bit about these future things and think about where we're headed and the possibilities. And I think you're right. I think I've been so focused on the information stuff, I haven't thought about the rest of it. But it is going to be an interesting time to see where we go from here. But one thing is for sure, it will be commercialized. Whatever it is, they're going to find a way to sell to us no matter what,
Well, that's what capitalism is all about. And hopefully in the long run, this country stays a democracy and has capitalism.
It's just like, I hate going to the grocery store. I just, it drives me crazy. I like to get food, but and I all
like to eat, right?
Yeah, we all like to eat. And I know that there are companies out there that are providing services that will actually go shop for you, but they're really too expensive.
Yeah.
So, imagine a virtual world where, basically you can go in and just, instead of having a list, I want to walk through a virtual grocery store and I want to be able to, pick what I want. It gets put into a box, and then a couple hours later, the UPS driver shows up with my groceries. That's how I want to shop.
Well, at that point, I mean, I wouldn't have a reason to leave the house. I would just be, I just would put my contact lenses on and I'd go shopping, and I just would sit in my house. I would never go outside.
Well, is that that could be a danger then of this whole thing, you know?
Yeah, no, I think it really is. I mean, I think that the augmented reality thing, though I think it's really interesting what's happening around the revolution around wearable computing around fitness. I think that's an important trend as well that kind of rides along with this.
Right.
But I think as more and more of our world and our needs get fulfilled by digital services, I think that there is a danger that there's, you spend more time sitting in front of a screen. And I think that may be what the bigger benefit of this is, the fact that it gets integrated into our existence. We're not sitting in front of screens. We can be doing this type of thing from anywhere at any time, and it doesn't limit us to where we have to be sitting in front of a big screen all the time.
Yeah, true. Well, Rob,
might be healthier.
I think what we're going to do is let's wrap this thing up. We're just at about an hour 30 at this point, or hour 20 actually on the recording. But
sure.
Let's, folks, what we're going to try to do is we'll let you know in advance what the schedule is going to be. This show may next weekend move to actually Sunday. I got to clear that with my lovely wife. Being gone all next week, I don't know how she's going to feel about me doing a show Sunday morning. But, Rob, I don't know if your schedule fits that or not. If it does, let me know. We can work that on email. But we're going to try to trying to keep this coming to you on a more regular basis. I have an absolute, this office, luckily you can only see about this much of the studio. This office is thrashed. I've got stuff to get into the tax accountant. Oh, my God. And I've got how many hours to do it? 10. I have to be at the airport in 10 hours.
So Todd, if we're going to start doing this show on Sundays and other days of the week, maybe we should change the name of the show.
To Morning Tech.
The Any Day Tech Show.
Or just Morning Tech. Yeah, for sure.
Morning Tech. There you go.
Yeah. Or Whenever Tech. Yeah. All right.
Open Tech.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Anyway, thanks GoDaddy for being sponsor here this week. And we're also got Dine on board. Didn't really talk about them too much at all in the show, but folks, if you want to save 30% at Dine.com, use podcast 30 as your code. Go over there and check them out. They got great products and services for folks that have websites looking for DNS and email services. Really impressed with their whole lineup of products and services. But Rob, thanks for being patient with my schedule, and thanks for arranging for Alan to come on this morning.
Well, I've got a bunch of folks that are eager to come on the show. We just got to bring them through, and I think they've got a lot of new perspectives that should really make for some good shows.
Absolutely. Everyone else, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Take care.
All right, thanks.
Aloha.